Welcome back to the Rise to Her podcast. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I'm Emily Greenway. This podcast is for the leaders, the entrepreneurs, creatives, and thoughtful professionals who know your work is meant to have really big impact. Most of you have already done a lot of inner work. You care about growth, purpose, you care about building something meaningful in this world. But at some point, you realize that strategy just is not enough. You need more clarity, more energy. You need a deeper sense of direction. And that is what we explore here. In this particular segment of the Rise to Her podcast, I share an archetype reading to help us understand the deeper patterns shaping our lives and our leadership so that we can start to move through our work with more awareness, more intention. These archetypes are to help us realize the themes unfolding beneath the surface, the invitations, the challenges, and the guidance that are shaping the way that we get to grow. Because when we start to see the patterns clearly, we can start to respond to them instead of feeling like we're constantly reacting to our life and feeling like we're pushing up against issue after issue. Before I get into this week's reading, I want to share something really freaking exciting. We are doing a podcast giveaway. When the podcast reaches 50 5-star reviews on either Apple or Spotify, I'm going to give one listener a full year inside of Rooted. Rooted is my seasonal living membership where we take these archetypes and actually apply them through reflection, rituals, workshops, coaching calls. This is designed for people who want to deepen their connection to their intuition, their purpose, and the work that they're here to do in the world. To enter the giveaway, simply leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, and then take a screenshot of the review and email it to us, emily@risetoher.com. When we reach 50 reviews, one person will receive a full year of Rooted, and you guys are going to absolutely be blown away by this community every week. It's just this full community of love and support of folks that are deeply committed to living out their soul contract, their soul values, and doing it in a way that's in rhythm, that's cyclical, that's not just this wounded masculine or wounded feminine. They are stepping into their full self. Okay. Now let's get into this week's archetype. This is the reading for the week of March 16th. And if you are saying, well, I'm not listening to this on the week of March 16th, when I did these readings, and you'll hear me say this at the beginning, I asked that the guides connect us with the energy that we need to hear at the time. So trust that whatever lands for you when you're listening is meant to land. Okay, so the archetype that came through for our community is the unseen. You can take a look at it right here if you're watching on YouTube. So this archetype carries a very clear message. You are being guided. There's already intelligence and support moving through your life, but you are probably not recognizing it yet, at least not fully. So the unseen archetype watches with a wisdom. It's like I'm sitting back, I'm observing patiently, and it's able to see a deeper movement unfolding around us, right? It's able to see bigger picture. One of the things we do in the clinical research is making sure that we always step back and say, what is our bigger picture here? Because we get so caught up in the nitty gritty, who makes who mad, or what grant is ending now and who needs funding, right? But stepping back, bigger picture, we're able to see how this all works together. And that is the archetype we're being asked to embody right now. And it's really telling us that we are being supported deeply. There is a spiritual guidance that is here to support us in the practical 3D work that we are doing inside of our businesses, inside of our careers, our relationships, whatever it may be. And for some of us, we're able to feel that presence really clearly, and some of us not. But I can guarantee you've seen it, this archetype, the unseen, in ways that you probably haven't realized. That could be noticing a thought that's continually true. Noticing a thought that's continued to return again and again. Maybe you have a conversation that starts to feel really strangely relevant to a question, to something that's been bothering you. It could even be a song that comes up that you're like, that is what I was looking for. This is clarity that all of a sudden pops in and is like, oh my God, that was it, right? But for a lot of us, what happens is our mind immediately steps in and says, that doesn't make sense. That's probably nothing. I'm just overthinking this. There's no way that's going to practically work. So the invitation with this archetype is to start asking ourselves, where have you been doubting your own knowing? This higher self that we have contact with. We are fully human and fully divine. And when we continue to second guess our divinity and just tap into that only logical human part, right? When that human part is beautiful, it allows us to experience this 3D life. But when we forget that we're also divine and fully connected to source, God, universe, nature, we start to dismiss the deeper support that we have around us. So I want you to start asking, where have you dismissed something that keeps trying to get your attention? Because it is here to help you. Where have you been talking yourself out of something that your intuition has already recognized, that already knows to be true? Because the unseen here often communicates through signs and synchronicities. It could show up through a conversation where somebody says the exact thing you needed to hear at that time. It's a phrase or an idea that keeps returning. It could be a color, a symbol, and suddenly you start noticing it everywhere. It could be a dream, a insight that just automatically comes through and you're like, I don't know where that came through. The logical mind here, though, and we have to be very aware of this, tries to dismiss these things because they do not follow the rules that we have been taught to rely on. But the unseen support that we have, it does not operate through logic. It operates through a deep connection. This is that divine feminine, right? Divine feminine is a deep intuitive knowing, a connection to source. And when we're able to take this source, this beautiful connection, and apply it inside of our careers, our businesses, our deeper purpose, the doors will be blown off of your freaking limitations. And that burnout doesn't have a place here because it's showing you these shortcuts in a way, this insight that we've been just trying to push through. I want to share a story that's going to help this land because it has quite literally changed my life. Because this archetype, when I was doing the reading, it reminded me of a very clear moment recently in my own life where guidance, where this unseen appeared in a way that made absolutely no sense. If you've been following my wife and I's journey, she was doing travel physical therapy. And in that, we were taking contracts that were typically 3 to 4 months and bopping all over the country because I have a lovely privilege of working from home. We had spent a half a year or so on the West Coast in Pacific Northwest in Portland and then Washington, Portland, Oregon, Tacoma, Washington. And then we said, okay, we know we're supposed to go back east. We had driven 55 hours across the country to the East Coast. We took a contract in South Carolina, where I'm from, and then in her hometown in Ohio. We had already committed to being there. We were planning in the next 3 weeks to then move to Portland, Maine. Everything suggested that we stay and we continue our track. We knew Portland was coming through. That was the term. And I am someone that deeply values my intuitive knowing, my spiritual practice in making these big life decisions. And so does my wife. And so we were looking for the contract. We knew when it came through, it was going to be perfect. We weren't going to rush it. So I went to a breathwork session with my coach and healer that I've been working with for over a decade. And I had a very clear experience that told me we were not supposed to continue towards the East Coast. And logically, this made zero sense. We had already invested the time, the energy, the planning. We had literally driven 55 hours. We had already done this trip once from South Carolina all the way to the Pacific Northwest to do this full experience. So we were supposed to go back, but something deeper kept saying that this isn't it. You need to listen to me. And then it came through even deeper. You're supposed to go back to the Pacific Northwest. And I was like, no, I didn't even really love the Pacific Northwest. But I had already developed this connection, this deeper trust in what my intuition says, and a knowing that the unseen shows shortcuts, shows the path for your highest good. And so I went outside, told my wife, she said, guess we're moving back. And within 2 weeks, she was offered a director position. And we packed everything up, drove 55 hours back to the Pacific Northwest where we live. And so I tell you all of this because trusting this guidance led us somewhere that has aligned much more deeply with who we are becoming. It has laid the groundwork. And now I have a colleague who I'm leading a beautiful retreat with, and we lead seasonal workshops in person together. It was this connection that came through, and everything has started to fall into place. But the unseen does not always offer information that makes sense to the rational mind here, but it will guide us towards something that is far more aligned with your purpose. So I give you that as a knowing that I am in this work with you and that this is something that we are practicing daily. All right, so let's go back to the reading. When this archetype appears, the unseen, it is a signal that your guides are near. You are not navigating life alone. There are supportive forces that are working around you. But, asterisk here, guidance from the spirit realm requires consent because we have free will. So you have to be willing to receive it. And sometimes that can begin with something really freaking simple, like asking. You might say, my guides, my spirits of the utmost white light, love, and compassion for the highest good, can you help me with this particular situation? Right? Invite them in. We are nature here. And you may be saying, Emily, this is woo, this is wild. Well, I'm telling you, if you look at nature, you see how everything is interconnected. Science is catching up with this, right? With the quantum scientists. We are catching up. And so I want to tell you that there is something way beyond the 3D. You know it because you know you have a higher purpose here. You know you came here for a reason. And for folks that are like, what is my purpose? When they feel disconnected to that, that's where we start to fall into that depression, that frustration, that anxiety, because we feel disconnected from what we are, which is ultimately the source. So yes, your business, yes, your idea, yes, your vision, yes, your family, those things, if you desired it, then they are meant to connect you to your higher purpose. And you are here and you have support, but you have to consent to it. Okay. For a lot of us, guidance is going to appear when your mind stops trying to control everything. I am guilty of this. Okay. It wants your body to rest. There needs to be space for you to hear, to have this conversation. And so in those moments when the doorway between the worlds becomes a little bit more open, that connection becomes easier to access. And so this week, that doorway is slightly opening and it's like, hey, are you going to ask for support? So I want you to be willing to listen. But one reason that a lot of folks struggle to trust this guidance is because they confuse intuition with fear. But fear here is going to sound urgent. It's going to create this pressure. But intuition is like really calm. It's like, here you go. It's a simple, persistent, this is it. Right? It's might feel like I'm forcing something. I need to redirect, or there's another way, right? Intuition will not shout at you. It may be once you have this connection with your guides, it may be very like, no, right? Not like, oh my God, you can't do this, or this will happen, or this will happen, right? When you start spiraling, when there's that like storyline, that is your fear, right? But intuition is repetitive, and that will become stronger when you're more deeply aligned with your guides. And this becomes especially important in places like business, leadership, money decisions, and burnout culture, because fear will tell you if you slow down, everything will fall apart. I'm like processing that deeply in my body right now. Okay. And I know that's fear. And so every time I feel that, the medicine there is trust. Right. So I'm connecting more with my cards, deepening my spiritual practice, having a stronger lifeline to that. Fear might say, if I say no to this opportunity right now, I'm going to lose momentum. What if nothing ever comes around again? But you know something's not quite right about it. It might say, if I change my direction now, people are going to question me. They're going to think I'm not the real deal. But intuition, on the other hand, it says something like, this pace that you're living in is not sustainable. This direction is not aligned anymore. It'll say there's another path available. Fear tries to maintain control while intuition guides you back to your soul-aligned values, which is like our internal code, one of the foundations of what we do at Rise to Her. It is the values your soul actually came here to live through. Burnout happens when we ignore that code. Hey there. If your body keeps asking for a different pace than your life allows, if you're moving through the year without clear moments to pause, reflect, or reset, if your intuition keeps whispering and you keep overriding it, Rooted was created for you. Rooted is a seasonal living membership for people who want a more ritualized, spiritually connected way of life, one that actually supports the work and impact they care about. Inside of Rooted, you learn how to live in rhythm with the wheel of the year. When to initiate, when to tend, when to rest, when to release, so your energy stays intact instead of slowly wearing thin. You'll explore your soul contract, work with energetics, and build practices that help your intuition guide your decision, not just inspire them. You get access to workshops like Shadow Work Portal, the Portal of Joy, and the Soul Contract Workshop, along with a growing vault of meditation and somatic practices this community returns to again and again. We gather for live full moon magic calls, bi-weekly coaching sessions with me, and weekly integration prompts to help you stay anchored in the season you're actually in. Rooted is available at a special pricing. You can join for less than $1 a day or receive full year access at 50% off. Rooted is for the curious, for those who want to stay devoted to their work without losing themselves in it. You can join at www.risetoher.com/rooted, or you'll find the link to join in the show notes. I'll see you inside. There is another layer to this archetype that is really important for people building businesses, leading teams, or creating something meaningful in the world. And you know that's what we're here doing. And that is that the unseen is asking you to embrace the spiritual side of your work. A lot of high achievers, a lot of people that are working in these high demand jobs keep their spirituality separate from their professional life. They know the spirituality, the deep work is important, but they almost see it in these silos. Meditate, journal, reflect. But when you step into leadership or business decisions, we start to rely entirely on logic. But this archetype is asking you to stop separating those worlds. Your purpose is spiritual. Your work that you're here to do is spiritual. The people that you're meant to help, the impact that you are meant to create, all of it is connected to something larger than strategy. And this is where that divine feminine energy comes in, because the divine feminine receives, she listens, she senses guidance. She's not like, oh, now why, right? And so many leaders have been conditioned by this hustle culture to operate through this control, this certainty, this constant output. But the unseen is reminding us here, you were never meant to do this alone. And we can't talk about this archetype without talking about Western culture and individualism, because Western culture, it places so much freaking value on being independent, being able to solve the problem yourself, being able to push harder, work longer hours. It's about figuring it out alone. But spiritually speaking, we are deeply supported. We have spirit guides. We are source itself in human form. We have intuition. We have people who are available to appear at specific moments to reflect something back to you. But when we stay in constant output mode, we miss those signals. We never slow down. We don't hear the message. And so this archetype is inviting you to move from an individual effort towards connection. Ask for help. Invite guidance. Allow insight to arrive. If the spirit guides are feeling like a little too far outside of your realm, I get it. First, start by asking for support in your community. That's why we have Rooted, because inside of Rooted, we are all deeply committed to our purpose, and we know this way of constant output and this wounded masculine energy that's burning us out and making us feel like crap is not working for us anymore. So by entering into a container that models this beauty, we're able to then embody it, feel more supported, remove ourselves from that really hyper wounded masculine, I need to save myself and protect myself only. So the medicine here is to ask for help, invite guidance, allow insight to arrive, because your guidance that you're looking for, that insight, that support is going to arrive when you create space. Maybe you start going on walks. That's why a meditation practice is so freaking powerful. Writing down these insights. I have something in my phone called Biz Pings, right? I get that space where I have a direct place to hold all of those downloads that I'm getting, right? Ideas, synchronicities, conversations that unlock something inside of you. Use that note. You always have your phone on you, because a lot of times that guidance that you're looking for is going to arrive through another person. Spirit communicates through other people, through songs, through those signs and synchronicities. Someone might say a sentence, and then suddenly something clicks and you realize this was the message. The unseen is a gift. You are being watched with wisdom, with compassion. You are being invited to finally allow yourself to be seen by that presence. Ask for support, create space, and pay attention. Something deeper is already guiding your path. And when we start to finally listen, life starts to move a lot more smoothly in ways that we could never freaking force on our own. And if you want to be able to apply this knowledge in a more integrative way, that is exactly why I created Rooted. The podcast is where we begin these conversations, where we bring awareness to the archetypes. Inside of Rooted, we learn how to actually work with them. We're going to take these archetypes, we're going to move them into deeper integration through reflection prompts, through guided meditations, rituals, practices. We work with the wheel of the year here. And hello, we have the spring equinox coming up this weekend, March 21st, 2026. It is going to be magic. I'm leading an in-person workshop in Portland, Oregon. The link will be in the show notes. If you're around, we would love for you to come. It's going to be a 3-hour in-person immersive workshop, and we are going to talk about rituals. We're going to talk about the history of spring equinox, how we can take that and apply it to our modern lives, utilizing this energetic portal, this opportunity to reflect, to look at the balance. As we go into spring, we first go through this time, this frame of balance, the equanimity. So all of that plus more inside of that workshop, you can sign up with the link in the show notes. But Rooted is an ongoing living membership. It is where we practice this cyclical living, where we can hold space for our leadership, for our magic, by utilizing the energies around us. And Mother Earth is the model we were given as another shortcut for how to live our life. That is why I'm so passionate about leaders, entrepreneurs, professionals, and career-driven people who know they are meant to make an impact in the world, sitting in this container so that we can use our energy in a way that is the most impactful. Because insight is powerful, but transformation starts to happen when we create space to practice and embody what we're learning. So if this archetype has resonated with you and you want to explore it more deeply, Rooted is where we go further. Inside the community this week, we are working with the unseen. I send out reflection prompts in the WhatsApp group, guided meditation to strengthen your connection with your intuition and your guides, and practices that start to help you recognize the guidance already moving through your life. Plus, we have a coaching call this Thursday where we spend an hour deepening this magic, where we are going to explore the spring equinox, the unseen support that we have so that we stop freaking burning out. The systems are falling, the structures are crumbling. So we have to do things differently. And Rooted is there to hold you. It is a space for people who want to grow in community, deepen their spiritual connection, and build a life and a body of work that feels aligned with who they truly are. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, reflecting, and rising into more of who you really are. If this episode sparked something inside of you or reminded you you're not alone, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. To keep the conversation going, come hang out with me on Instagram @RiseToHer. I always love hearing what's resonating for you. And if you're craving a space to explore intuitive, soul-led living with others who get it, our community is growing and you're always welcome. Until next time, trust yourself, honor your rhythm, and keep rising.